What was the Dixie Mafia? Stay tuned. Hey, it's once again time for Saturday Shorts. With me is Chuck Puckett. He is a fellow BUFORD PUSSER researcher, and he knows quite a bit about the Dixie Mafia. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Chuck, how you doing?
Good, Mike. A little hot down here in southern Arkansas.
Well, it gets that way during the summertime. It's climate change, as the liberals like to say.
Change every 4 years.
At any rate, we're going to talk about a little bit about the Dixie Mafia and try to straighten out some confusion about who they were, what they were. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to let you take off with this and kind of tell us what the Dixie Mafia was.
The Dixie Mafia is basically just a group of outlaws. There's no organization or any head. Now, where that term came from was from Rex Armistead. Some others try to take credit for it, but Rex supposedly was the one that coined it. He was at a meeting, I believe, in Dallas, where police officers sharing intelligence, different enforcement communities were. And he said, it doesn't do any good to say, so-and-so, say, Kirksey Nix did this, or, Towhead White did this. We got to make this sound like a Dixie Mafia. He said, act like they're intertwined together, like they're a big organization. He said, that'll create fear in the people and, and other law enforcement, communities around. And but as far as the Dixie Mafia, they don't have a head. A lot of people think it's like the Italian Mafia.
Right.
They don't have right. There's no ceremonies or rituals. When they want to kill somebody, they just go kill somebody. That's what's done. No kissing the Godfather's hand or anything. They don't answer to anybody. It's just all a bunch of guys that can perform different jobs. Like you may have a good safe cracker over here, a guy with a bar that cut through a safe. You may have a good getaway driver. Somebody good electronics, and when they go somewhere and create a job, they get who they need to do the job, and that's how they all get together. So that's really what the Dixie Mafia is.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion that I really want to clear up because a lot of people don't know the difference between the Dixie Mafia and the state line mob, for lack of a better expression.
Right. Yeah.
So take it away on that one too.
Well, State Line Mall, basically, if you think about it, they did have those clubs and bars up there. We know that. But really, if you think about it, Towhead was the only one there that was really considered, you could say, was part of the Dixie Mafia. I mean, Towhead was a killer. I mean, he was part of that bunch. He went all over doing, robberies and crimes and things like that. And, other regions had their, mobs too, like, think about the Burks over in Georgia and the Chaunceys. They were big. Alabama had the Dawsons. But as far as they're at Corinth and the Tennessee state line up in there, they were really, the Dixie Mafia. Towhead, I think, was the only one there. I've said my opinion. Now, I'm not saying some of those guys didn't go through there at times, like, Kirksey Nick. Club, I've heard he was rumored to have been there one time just passing through or seeing some people. But, yeah, the Towhead was about the only one really I would say was considered, you could say he was Dixie Mafia.
Yeah, you think about this. When you go through Towhead's FBI files, they'll be talking about confidential informants and who did this and who did that didn't necessarily pertain directly to Towhead.
Right.
But if you notice in there, you rarely ever see the mention of Kirksey Nix.
Right.
You rarely ever see the name Bill Clubb.
Right.
And there's all these others. You'd see Dawson a time or two.
Sure.
But the point I guess I'm trying to make is that they were not fixtures at the state line. That was the Hathcocks and Towhead. That was pretty much it as far as the big names at the state line. You had all the little players after that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the big difference. Everybody wants to say, well, they were the same thing. They really weren't.
No, they weren't. No. No, like I said, Towhead was the most dangerous guy there at the state line. I'd say.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and if you think about it, they really, most of them would hang around Dallas and Biloxi, you know, the bigger cities, and Atlanta, you know, and
Right.
that's where a lot of them meet at these strip clubs. They like strip clubs and like, you know, whorehouses. And that's where they made a lot of their plans at some of these strip clubs.
Well, a lot of those guys were single.
That's right. Like we're saying, ready to mingle.
So, and something else that I wanted to make sure that we covered in this is that, you know, they were all over the South,
Right.
you know, and like you were saying, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina was their big territory.
Right.
But you know, you'd see them commit crimes out west and up north, but they didn't really seem to focus on that. They'd go out there, pull a job, and
Right.
generally be back.
Right, they would, yeah, yeah. They like the South, like to stay down here. You know, and too, and some like the Burt's in Georgia. I know he would do jobs in North Carolina, and he would burn businesses in Florida. You know, for people need their business burned. They go all over the South. You know, Kirksey Nix. Of course, he was from Oklahoma, but he did jobs all over. Matter of fact, remember Arkansas State Police? They're the ones had pictures of Nix and send them to the you know, Tennessee TBI when PUSSER was supposedly ambushed.
Right.
You know, yeah, he was familiar in Arkansas. You know.
Yeah, you know, he that's where he met Sherry.
Right. Ray Sharp, right.
Sure. Yeah, and she was her mom, I guess, ran a house of ill repute in Fort Smith, and Kirksey got picked up there on a firearms violation, and so the state police got familiar with him in a hurry, and they realized who and what he was. So when PUSSER was shot during the ambush, you know, and they were looking for suspects, well, you know, Arkansas State Police sent that over to them, and all of a sudden everybody started focusing on him.
Right.
But I don't know if he had any more connection with it than anybody else did.
Right.
Possibly so, because of he and Towhead having a relationship is probably the reason that that story just kind of blossomed.
I would imagine, yeah. We know too, Towhead. Now think about he was from Mississippi, and him and Bill Clubb, they got on Texas most wanted list, 10 most wanted list. They got, well, let's create some havoc over here. And you know, and Clubb, he was originally, I think, from census records I've seen, I think he was actually from Blytheville, Arkansas, where he was born. But now they would be up in Missouri some too. I think his mother lived up around St. Louis some, but he'd be all over. I mean, he might do a, you know, we'll call it a gambling, where they have gambling parties. He might do a job down at Biloxi, rob all them. He was in the gypsy camp robbery in Louisiana. I mean, he was in Atlanta. He Clubb been all over. Matter of fact, most of the police back then would tell you Bill Clubb was probably the most connected. He didn't know everybody, but he was the most connected. Whenever he had something need to be done, needed a good, you know, safe guy or good electronics guy or whatever, he knew who to call, who to get.
Right.
And he was known as kind of the most connected. I mean, you know, but and then you look at Towhead. You know, Towhead was all over. I mean,
yeah.
You know, he
spent a lot of time up in Illinois and Wisconsin and such as that. Be sure and subscribe and hit that bell so that you'll get notifications of new videos when they're released. You know, something else I wanted to hit here was the big difference between the Dixie Mafia and the regular Italian mafia families that really controlled so much up in the north. Mm-hmm. For instance, you know, the Italian mafias, you had to be a made man to be a real member, and they were so different from the Dixie Mafia because they were organized. They had a head of the family or a don. You know, you had to. There was a hierarchy down from there. If you wanted to do something big or take someone out, you had to get permission to do so. Dixie Mafia, they were doing whatever they wanted to do.
Free reign. That's right. And that's, you know, too, there were no territories. You can't come in my territory. No, I mean, it was just, you did what you wanted to do. You know, and of of course, another big thing they're into, I think a lot of people overlook was, car theft. I mean, they'd steal cars and they had body shops all over, strip them down,
Chop shops.
Yeah, chop shops. Yeah, that, club was big into that here in Texarkana. And, I was trying to think, but somebody else was good at that too, but it's a little low level guy. But anyway, they were into all types of stuff like that. But like I say, now club and some of those guys would do jobs for like Carlos Marcello. I think they were required, if you're going to do some things, we expect some favors, if we're going to let you do some things down here. Of course, now Marcello was not Dixie Mafia. He was Italian, but he would use those Dixie Mafia guys sometimes for hits and for things like that, And matter of fact, Bill Clubb's wife's nephew, who's in law enforcement, told me that he knew Clubb did several things for Marcello, and he would have him do some things. And
there's nothing wrong with having a good subcontractor.
That's right. You sub it out, and everything. So, but yeah, as far as like you're talking about there, it's nothing like the Italian mafia. It wasn't even similar.
No.
And what I find kind of interesting, I was reading what a Atlanta detective said one time, Atlanta, Georgia detective. He said, when I go into a club, he said, we almost have a reunion when I'm trying to see who they're associating with. All these outlaws, they're always shaking my head. Hey, what's up, detective? You start trying to pin that thing on me. Come on. It's just almost like high school reunion. Said the real Southern gentleman, but he said the Italians are real bombastic and rude. When it comes to law enforcement, they kind of said the Dixie Mafia is always nice law enforcement, most of them.
Well, that's Southern hospitality.
That's right. It goes a long way to
it. Until they're finished with you.
Yeah, that's true. What's like Rex said, he said, Towhead Bill Clubb, they could lay the manners on you, boy. They could lay them on. And I know one detective said that Bill Clubb comes off as a pussycat, but his eyes go cold real quick. And, but said that when you go in the club and they're all there, so they treat us lawmen with respect. I mean, they really did.
Now, you look at Towhead. He was a lot the same way. I mean, you talk to women that knew Towhead and they would say, oh, he was so handsome. He was so polite. And, just not anything like that you would think he would be. Right. Even a lot of the guys would say, he's a lot of fun to be around. He was very much a personality.
Right.
But at the same time, he could turn cold just as quick as anyone.
Like, how can I stick it to you? That's what they're in the back of their mind. What can I get out of it? That's
right. They're always thinking. They're always planning.
Michael Francis, I said to him one time, he was Italian mafia, and he talked about you get whacked for messing with somebody's girlfriend or wife. Dixie Mafia, they mess around a lot of girlfriends and wives. Sometimes they had some killings over women, but they get crossways. But sometimes there wasn't. So, okay, I'll overlook that. That was another thing I kind of noticed about him too.
Well, we call this thing Saturday Shorts. We've been going for a little while here.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, let's do. Next week, let's get back together, and let's talk about some individuals that were Dixie Mafia and talk about their alleged hierarchy. And kind of get into that, discuss that, so people will have a better understanding about exactly what they were, who they were, what they did, how they did it, and. But it's really something that it's an interesting thing to look at. But the state line, it was such small potatoes compared to what the Dixie Mafia would do.
It was not, Well, I'd like to say, I mean, we have a 3-state line right here south of us, the Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas line. There used to be one club there that covered all 3 areas of the state, was in each state. And a lot of shootings and killings down there, but it wasn't a mafia. I mean, it was just a bunch of outlaws. I mean, some of them were mean, and they would go around doing jobs, but they weren't, that wasn't a Dixie Mafia. They had a couple go down at the end there sometime. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, up the state line, that wasn't a Dixie. Towhead, like I say, he was it.
Well, another thing that a lot of people don't understand is that compared to some things like around Jackson, Tennessee, and Lexington, the state line was small potatoes.
Oh, that's right.
And it's just that the movie Walking Tall brought so much attention to the state line that everybody thinks, oh, those, that was something else down there. Didn't hold a candle to Garnertown up there in Lexington, for instance.
Garner, I have to say, that's where Garner was from. You're talking about, Yeah, they're pretty rough folks. And they didn't hold a light to the Dawsons either over in Alabama. They had some rough joints, you know, and they're a lot worse than state line was. Yeah, like I say, Buford Pusser, if it wasn't for Pauline getting murdered, nobody know about him really or the state line.
Oh, that's right. You know, and you have to wonder why nobody ever made a movie about the Dawsons.
Right, yeah. It'd be a good one. A good
Yeah,
book.
it would be.
That's your next project, Matt. That's your next project there.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting old.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm
Slow down.
73, going on 74 now.
Yeah.
And one of these days, I need to think about retiring. I thought I
There you
did
go.
one time.
Well,
And
yeah. Well, you keep working, you may live to be 100, you know.
well, you never know.
Sound body, sound mind.
Well, all right. We'll get back together
Okay.
next Saturday, and we'll be back. We'll talk about all this, like I said. So
Try to get it unscrambled for everybody.
yeah, see if you know here at the Buford Pusser University of Criminal Affairs.
That's right. Yeah.
We'll see if we can educate the masses.
That's
We'll
right.
do it together.
Yeah, we need a big endowment.
All right, sir. I appreciate you being here.
All right, Mike. Enjoyed it, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
We will catch you later.
Okay, Mike. Okay.